Hello everyone and welcome back to the class. I hope this break that we had was refreshing, though it was a brief one, but it's very important to keep ourselves recharged. I'm your instructor Nishant Shukla, and let's begin with the second module of class 1 we are having today. So this is the progress we have made so far. In the first class today we will cover 3 modules. We are already done with the first module and 2 more modules to go. Let's start with the module project management framework. That is the second module, and we are going to cover some very useful and interesting topics here, that is project lifecycle and organizational influences under the second module. So let's start with the project lifecycle first. And project lifecycle is a framework which connects all the phases through which a project undergoes. And every project has some phases, and there cannot be a project without any life cycle. All the projects are divided into phases, and we can very well relate this project life cycle to the human life cycle as well. Human life cycle begins with the fertilization, then birth, then it progresses through the infancy, childhood, puberty, adulthood, and aging, and finally we come to the end. Now every phase that we go through is unique and encompasses changes in the human body. Exactly the same way, any project, no matter from which industry, no matter from which area, it passes through various stages or phases. We start the project, we plan certain work, then we do the work, and finally the project comes to an end where we close the project. Okay. So project life cycle is something which provides the basic framework for managing the project. Okay, and the life cycle can be determined by the unique aspects of the organization, industry, or the technology that you're going to use for the project. There are a lot of additional information that we will cover, and you can also go through the topic in detail in PMP guide. So in this slide, we talk about the different life cycles, for different industry. One life cycle, it's not that, there is one particular life cycle and every project has to follow that. They vary from industry to industry. And each phase answer the question, what do we do to get the desired result? Okay. For example, in a IT software development industry, the phases may look like requirement gathering, analysis, requirement analysis, design, development, testing, and so on. And in construction industry, it may be like a feasibility analysis, then planning and design, then production or construction and start. Pharmaceutical, it may be discovery and screening of the medicine, then preclinical development, registration, workup, post-submission activities. So there are different phases that a project will go through. Now each phase, as we talked about, in each phase the focus is what exactly we need to do, what to do to get the desired result. In requirement gathering, the focus of the project team will be on what are the customer requirements, what is it that the customer need, what is needed to be done to collect the requirement of the customer in such a way that we have minimum change request later on. So when I move to the development phase, where the project goes into the next phase, the focus of the project will be on what is needed to be done to get these requirements fulfilled. What are the tasks, what is the work that we need to do so we can translate these requirements into a product which will fulfill their needs. Okay, so the focus is absolutely different in all the phases. Each phase will give us some deliverables. Like requirement phase will give us the requirement documentations, and development phase will give us the deliverables which will fulfill the requirements. Let's now understand the relationship. So I hope it is clear to everyone, and if you have any question you can type in here, and by the time you type in a question, let's move on to the next slide where we understand the relationship among these phases of the project life cycle. So as per PMP guide 5th edition, there are 2 different ways in which a phase connect with another phase. So one can be a sequential and second is overlapping. So sequential is the phase is a phase where end of phase 1 will kickstart the another phase. When the phase one ends, then only the phase two can start. Okay. Phase two cannot start without phase one getting over. Why? Because a lot of deliverables or inputs will be passed on from phase one to phase two. And between phase one and phase two, there will be gate reviews, which are also called as kill points. So you may have to remember these terms because these terminologies are very, very important for the PMP examination. You may call it with whatever name in your real life, in your country, in your industry, in your company, in your organization. But for PMP examination, you will have to be very specific with how PMI calls it, what is mentioned in the PMBOK guide. Okay. And so these reviews that we are going to do, either the checkpoint or toll gate review or phase gate review, these review provide a insight to the management team where they can decide if they should continue doing the project or terminate it if the outcome is not aligned to the strategic objective of the organization or it is not fulfilling the business need. Okay. And next phase can be, another phase is your overlapping. So overlapping phase is, establish an overlapping relationship between the project phases. So this is generally used to fast track the project progress. For example, if there are two phases, requirements and development in a project, then the project management team or the project manager may decide to start the development phase when around 75% of the requirement is collected. So this may result in faster development, but at the same time, it is definitely going to increase the likelihood of rework. So during the last stage of requirement gathering, if you're working in this way, in the last stage of the requirement gathering, a new requirement may come up. So you have collected 75% of the requirement, 25% of you need to meet some of the stakeholders to get their requirements, and you assumed that you are not going to get any significant new requirement which may change the overall scope. But you never know, you may discover something new while meeting those remaining stakeholders, and that may force you to go back and do a lot of rework. So the overlapping relationship, you have to be very, very careful because it may increase the risk. Okay, so let us now understand, we talked about this risk, and every risk may deviate your project, deviate the plan or the schedule or the guidelines that you have. So let us now understand how allocation of resources and cost occurs during this project life cycle. And in this slide, in this graph, you can see the cost and staffing level is low initially. When we start the project, we require very minimum cost and the number of people involved in the project is also very low. But as the project progresses, the requirement of cost and staffing will start going higher in planning. Uh, when we start carrying out the work and when we start carrying out the work in the execution phase, it may touch its peak, like the cost required or the money that you're going to spend on the project during that phase or the number of people working on the project at that point of time will be at the highest, and gradually it will start coming down as the project moves towards its closer. So the point to understand here is that the efforts and the cost toward the project varies, but the progress varies with the progress on the time scale as your project moves ahead, as your project goes through the different phases of the life cycle. The requirement, the cost requirement, the staffing requirement will keep on changing. So you need to keep an eye on that, and in fact this can be a very good insight or input on when you're deciding your project life cycle as well. So, but this is not the only thing. There is one more dimension which you need to understand, and this dimension is extremely important for the pointer that I just said, whether you should go for the sequential life cycle or the overlapping life cycle. Sorry, sequential phases or the overlapping phases. Because when you start your project, when you're just about to start the project, you can see that there are variables like your your risk, your stakeholder influence, risk and uncertainty will be in your control, or there would be influences by the stakeholder, there would be some uncertainty, but as you start making progress, as you start gathering data and you start collecting the requirement, you'll start getting the clarity. So as you move ahead, your uncertainty and the risk will start to reduce, start to come down, and these variables are taken care of during the extensive planning stage. Okay, as we move ahead in the project, any changes due to stakeholders influence, let's say some part of the work is done and now they want you to make some more changes, make some alterations to the scope. So these kind of things, these kind of influences will attract the higher cost. You can see here in the graph, as the time progresses, the cost of making any change will start going up, and towards end of the project it will be at very high level. So any changes requested by a stakeholder towards the end of the project may require huge amount of rework, which will result in a higher cost. So the type of relationships among those phases we discussed in last two slides, in the last two slides, also influence the cost of change. So you as a project manager must decide judicially about what type of relationship you should choose for your project. And you need to strike a balance. Why you need to do this, why you need to take care of all these phases? You may say that I am a project manager, whatever is followed in the organization, I'm going to follow exactly the same way, but using that you may not achieve the results. So as a project manager, you need to strike a right balance among the competing factors of the project. That is what we learned in the module 1. And how we are going to do that? By applying the required knowledge and skills into the project. Okay, so using your wisdom, using your project management knowledge, skills and wisdom, you will decide what kind of phases you will have, whether you will have sequential phases or the overlapping phases. Okay, and another important point to understand here is about the life cycle is the relationship between product life cycle and the project life cycle. So project life cycle and product life cycle is quite important point for you to understand, and there may not be any direct questions in the PMP examinations from project versus product life cycle, but there are few things that you must understand. So first point is that project life cycle is a subset of a product life cycle. Product life cycle is a larger picture, and project life cycle, there may be multiple project life cycle, or there may be operation life cycle as well. Okay, and at certain point of time you'll see that operations and projects are also going hand in hand. Okay, for example, uh, let's say you are a project manager, you're working in an automobile company, and that company decides to launch a new hybrid car. So the company does some basic market research, some collect some data points, and based on that market research, the idea of this hybrid car moves from ideation to the prototype stage. Now, making a prototype, creating a prototype is a project, and once the prototype is approved, the car goes for manufacturing, which is operations. So during this prototype stage, you will do the analysis, you'll do the feasibility analysis, then you will do the design, then it will go for build. You will create that prototype, and then it will go through the various stages of testing. You will have multiple tests there, and then you will present it to the management of the organization, and then they will take a decision whether it can go in the same structure, same format or same model or not. Once you get a go ahead, then it goes for manufacturing, which is operations. Okay, so your project, the end of the project, the last phase of the project kick-started the operation, and the cars start getting manufactured. So which is a pure operations. So you will have to use or apply the methodologies of operations management. And considering the response that the company is getting from the market, at end of the first year, the organization decides to enhance the production capacity from 2,000 cars to 10,000 cars in a year, which is again a project. And this all is still a part of your product life cycle. Okay, so your company enhanced the capacity, you started manufacturing, let's say 10,000 cars in a year, continue to do that for a couple of years, and after that they decided to come up with a new variant of the hybrid car, new model of the car, and as they started working on the new model, they'll slowly and slowly start scaling it down, and at some point of time, the production of the current model will eventually come to a full stop. Okay, so the life cycle of the product, which is an example of a specific model of car, started from the ideation stage, and it will be on until the end of manufacturing of that particular model. And during this entire lifespan, it went through multiple project life cycle and the operation life cycle as well. So this all is your product life cycle. Okay, and the whole idea behind breaking the entire work in different phases is for better management control. So you can have better management and better control at each and every stage of this product life cycle. So I hope this gives you a very good perspective of what is a project life cycle and what are the associated elements that you should be aware of, not only from the PMP exam perspective, but also how to use this knowledge in the real life perspective. Great. So I hope this topic is clear to everyone. If you have any question, you can type in now. I can already see a question coming from Dan. So Dan is asking, are we going to get any questions, specific questions from this topic in the PMP examination? Dan, no, you may not get a direct question from here, but this information may require you to select the right answer for some other question, some other type of question. So as we move ahead, at end of this topic, I have some basic questions where you will get an idea what kind of questions can be asked. But to answer your question precisely, this is a good to know information. Rather, I should say important to know information. But do not expect any direct questions, like what is the difference in product lifecycle and project lifecycle. But you may be asked to distinguish between project and operation during the PMP examination. Okay, great. And there is one more question from Vineet, and Vineet is asking, do I need to study this topic again in PMBOK guide? Very interesting question, Vineet, and very important question, and this actually this is for all. Yes, you will have to study PMBOK guide. So when you read that PMBOK guide, this particular topic, you'll find a very elaborated information available to you around that. What we are going through here is I am making you familiar with the topic and subject, and I am also telling you the concept. I am also telling you how does this each and every topic fits into the entire scheme of things with a relevant example. But for PMP exam, you must read PMBOK guide cover to cover. Do not leave any topic here. There is no topic called as less important. Everything is important. Of course, there are some topics which have high importance, which I have already highlighted. So slightly long answer, Vineet, but I think it is important for everyone to understand. I hope you got the answer to your question. Great. Okay, thanks for the confirmation, and let's move on now. So okay, yes, so what we have coming up now is few questions, as I told you, and here you will be able to see how it relates to the question that you asked. So here's the question one. You are working to finalize the life cycle model of a project you are managing. So which of the following will not be a phase in the life cycle? Easy question. Take a minute to answer this question. You can just type in your answer in the chat window. Okay. You can start seeing the answers here. Fantastic. Okay, now I can see there is some confusion here, but that's all right. That is the reason of asking this question. So let me share the correct answer. It is contract finalization. So the question is, you have to finalize the life cycle model of a project. Now, which one of this will not be a phase? Requirement analysis is a phase. Development is a phase. Design is a phase. But contract finalization is an event. It's an activity. It's an event, which is not a phase. So the correct answer here is B. Okay. Everyone got it? Great. If you have any question, you can, if you have any confusion here, you can just type in your confusion here and I'll address that. And let us move to the next question. You were the project manager for creating the prototype of a car and the prototype was accepted by the management. Now the car is being manufactured. So this state is called as what? This should be the easy one. We just discussed this topic here a few minutes back only. And let us look at the correct answer here. Okay, everyone got it right. Fantastic. You're doing very great. Operations is the correct answer. So once a prototype is accepted, it goes into manufacturing. That becomes a operation, because day in and day out, your company or the team will be working on creating the different units of the multiple units of the car. And what we are going to use to manage the operations is a operations life cycle, operations methodology. And with this, we move to the next important topic, which is factors influencing the project. So this topic is important, and from the examination perspective also it is quite important, because this will tell you what are the factors and elements that can influence the project. Okay, and important point is, these are the factors which are beyond the control of a project manager. As a project manager, you will have no power to control these kind of factors or elements. But if you are aware of these factors, you can definitely plan accordingly, thus mitigating the schedule risk for the project. How it works? So there can be organization system, there can be organizational culture and styles, and organization structure as well. Let's say you are working in an organization, you have recently joined this company where you're working. Let's assume, okay, you have recently joined this company, and in your previous organization the culture was different. So the work culture was different. So the moment you finalize your requirement, or the moment you finalize your plan, you will send it to your superior for the approval. And the mandate was that within 6 hours, within 8 hours, or within 12 hours of time, they will have to come back to you providing the approval, because that organization is known for its aggression. So you can, within a maximum 24 hours time, you can expect an approval on your plan for the project you're working on. But when you move to the different organization, there it was not a laid back, I should say, but they were not so aggressive in the approach. So they'll say, okay, let me go through the plan, let me review that in detail, I will discuss with the other stakeholders, with the other peer, and then I'm going to provide you the approval in 3 days time. And you feel that you do not have that kind of authority to pressurize that person or that senior stakeholder to give you approval in just in days time or within 24 hours. So you can see here, the same project, same life cycle, you are the same person, but the culture is making the whole lot of difference. Okay, so that is how it can actually influence your project. So you cannot change the culture of the organization, but you can incorporate that into your plan, so your schedules start looking realistic. Okay, and understanding the policies and procedures, work ethics, organization structure, these are also extremely important here. Okay, and you can look at this shared value, the items which are listed below here: shared values, norms, beliefs, expectations, policies and procedure, view of authority relationship, work ethics and work hours, organizational structure. All these are important things. Another example I can give you here is from the work hours. Let's say you are working in an organization which have very strict norms that no employee is allowed to spend more than 9 hours in office. So you have to consider this. You will have to incorporate this information while you are creating the schedule of the project. You cannot pressurize or ask your team members to stretch. Okay, so this will have a significant impact on your project. And organizational structure. Now organizational structure is a topic which is extremely important from the examination perspective, and you can expect around 3 to 4. Of course these numbers may vary, the number of questions may vary, but you can expect questions definitely from this topic alone. Okay, and from now on, whatever slide, wherever you see this importance is high, that means you can expect certain questions from these topics in the PMP examination. Wherever you don't see this tag as importance is high, it does not mean that the topic is of low importance. Everything is important. Everything is going to have some significance, whatever you're going to cover in this entire class or in this entire training. Okay, but these topics you need to pay special attention to. Okay, so type of organizations will help you understand how much authority and control a project manager has over the project. Okay, so organization structure can be divided, as you can see on the right side of the screen of this slide. It can be divided into 3 broad categories, that is your functional organization, projectized organization, and a mix of both, which is matrix organization. So matrix organization can be further subdivided into 3 categories, that is weak matrix, balanced matrix, and strong matrix. Okay, so let's have a look at the uh, each of the organization structure. Let's review each type of structure here to understand how does it impacts our project. Okay, and it's very, very important to understand the structure not only from the examination perspective but from the real life perspective as well. Now before we move on, let me give you one example. Let's say you are a project manager, and you have created a schedule and list of activities for a project. Now some of the work in that project is to be done by the quality analyst. So what you do is you identify the activities and you inform that quality analyst that, hey, you have some work coming up. Fine, so that work is coming up, let's say 3 months or 4 months down the line, and you kickstart the project. When you reach to the point where you need the services of that quality analyst, you ask him to do certain work and he says, I'm sorry, I cannot work on this project. I have different priorities. My manager, my quality manager has given me some important task and that is very, very crucial for me. Now you do not have any option but to talk to his manager, because your project is going to get the hit. Your schedule is going to get the hit. And when you talk to the functional manager or the quality manager, he says, I'm sorry, I cannot allocate that resource to you right now. Maybe after 3 days or 4 days, I can allocate some of the resources to you. So you have no option but to accept it. But the impact of this will be significant on your project. Okay, and what does it indicates to? It indicates that as a project manager, you have very limited authority over the resources, isn't it? Now if you look at it in a different perspective, before scheduling, before making the final schedule of the project, before giving this baseline or sharing the timeline with the customer and all the stakeholder, if you had paid attention to this information, that do you have full authority and control over the resources, it would have saved you from lot of hassles, isn't it? And that's why you must understand the structure in which you are working. So let us talk about the type of organization. So the first one, as I told you, is a functional organizations. Okay, so functional organizations are made up of units or division based on the types of business and their associated responsibilities. Simple example for this: your organization may have different departments. Let's say marketing department, manufacturing department, engineering department, and administration department. Okay, so the entire organization is divided into different verticals. You may call it as a vertical, you might call it as a department, or you might call it as a functions. Okay, and there is a functional manager to head each of these functions or verticals. So let's say chief executive of the company, CEO of the organization, says that in the next 2 quarters we need to bring down our cost by 5%. So there is a cost optimization project starting in your organization now. So this project or this work will be given to each of the functional manager, and these functional manager will identify some of the staff members from their verticals or department or from their team. So all the shaded boxes that you see here, we are assuming that these are the people who will work on this project of cost optimization. So each of the staff member is reporting to the functional manager. Project coordination will be in this structure. Project coordination will be done at the functional manager level. At the most, what functional manager will do is they will give this work to any person. That person may be a junior staff member also, okay, and that person will do the coordination. Now what exactly do we mean by coordination here? So that person will have no authority to ask any questions to anyone. He will simply collect the data from everyone, he will collate the data, and then he will provide it to the functional manager, and this functional manager will work together, and they will pass on the communication, they will communicate the project information to the chief executive. So there is no role of project manager. There may not be any role of the project coordinator also. It can be given to any of the staff member, or maybe the functional manager himself or herself can do the coordination there. Okay, so this is a example of your functional organization. So generally your service industries or the manufacturing industries, these are the industries which work on in this type of structure. They are pure functional organizations. Okay. The next type that we are going to look at is, okay, so these are the, before we move to the next one, there are some of the characteristics of the functional organization. So the advantage of this structure is it's a clear reporting hierarchy and the communication channel. There is no ambiguity. Each of the staff member knows that they have to report to the functional manager. Functional manager will have the full authority over the project and full control over the staff members, and the skills are also specific to the department. So if you go to the finance vertical, finance department, you'll find all the people working in that team are subject matter experts of the finance domain. Okay, and as I told you, there is no role of a project manager. It may be called as a project coordinator or as a team leader, but with almost nil to very minimum authority. All the PM or the project coordinator or the leader is going to do is collect the data, collect the data, and then provide it to the functional manager. Okay, so next type here is weak matrix organization, which is slightly different but inclined towards a functional structure, functional organization. So in the same example, what happens is functional managers will identify the respective staff or team member from their function, and they will give one person an authority, and that person may be called as a project expeditor or project coordinator. So he is again doing the same in their work, collecting the data, collecting the data, but he will have little authority in this, maybe low to moderate. So that person can, the project coordinator can go and ask the questions. Okay, so today you are supposed to do this. Have you done this work or not? Okay, so it will add little more authority to the work, but the project manager or the coordinator will still report into functional manager. Project manager or the coordinator will have very little authority here. Okay, uh, so all the key decisions will be still be taken by the functional manager. The technical guidance will be provided by the functional manager. The decisions related to the project will also be taken by the functional manager. The project manager or the project coordinator will do only limited stuff, that at the most they can go and check with this, and they can allocate some of the work that, okay, as per the schedule made by the functional manager, you are supposed to work on these and these and these tasks. That is all. Clear? That is your weak matrix organization. Okay, and Next one is your balance matrix organization, which is slightly higher, which gives slightly more authority to the project manager here. Project manager. Now here in the similar project, the the role of that project manager will be little more expanded. So the project manager will or may continue to report to the functional manager. So the project manager will decide how the work will be done, when it will be done. Functional manager will provide the technical guidance. Okay, so functional manager may give the technical consultancy. Let's say if in a in operations, or let's say in finance, how to optimize the cost, what are the different processes which can be optimized. Okay, so the project manager may do the task of identifying the processes, that these are the processes where we need to work. Functional manager will provide the technical guidance there, that whether or what can be done in these processes, and the team members will do the work as specified in the plan, in the schedule. And the project manager will have little authority over, or the moderate authority over, the staff member. They will allocate them the work, and they will be able to question then also whether the work is done or not. And for the project related matter, the staff may report to the project manager, but for their other function related work, function specific work, they will continue to report to the functional manager. So you can see here, project manager has higher authority, more time and more power. So project manager may be focusing only on this project. Okay, he may have some other work, but his focus is going to be on this project. Okay, so this is the balance matrix, and let's understand the last one, which is a strong matrix. So strong matrix is inclined towards a projectized organization, which we are going to cover in the last. And here, instead of the project manager reporting to the functional manager, there is a different department. There is a different department, let's say projects department, where project manager is not reporting to the functional manager. Project manager might be reporting to the director of projects, okay, or maybe the program manager. And project manager will decide what is to be done, what is not to be done, when the resources are working on the project, what tasks they have to do. They may still reach out to functional manager for the technical consultancy, but all the project related decisions will be taken by the project manager. Project manager will have full authority about the work, what is to be done. Okay, staff will report to project manager for all the project related stuff, and functional manager will provide only the consultancy, technical consultancy, and that too only when they are asked for it. Okay, so before we go to the next one, let's do a comparison of our matrix organization. So we talked about the weak matrix, balanced matrix, and strong matrix. So this will give you a good insight on what is the difference here. So you can see the title in the weak matrix can be a project coordinator or the project leader, and the focus is split. The focus of the project coordinator or the leader is split between the project and the functional. That person will continue to do his or her functional work, okay, the work specific to that department. At the same time, there would be some additional work coming from the project, and the project coordinator or the manager will have very little authority, very little, minimal authority. Okay, and the time spent on the project will also be the part-time. And in this kind of organization structure, project manager will always report into functional manager. In the balance matrix organization, the title is the project manager. It's a clear title. The focus is on the project work. Authority is balanced. Certain areas, project manager will be able to take the decisions. For example, what work to be done, what work not to be done will be decided by the project manager. But which resource is going to work, for that he will have to take approval from the functional manager. So the authority is balanced, and the time spent on the project will be full time. In balance matrix, the project manager will be working for full time on the project, and the project manager will report to the functional manager, but he will share the power for the project. Okay, so Even though he is reporting to the functional manager, but he still will be able to take independent decisions for the project. And in strong matrix, project manager, title is a project manager, and the focus is a project work, and authority is complete. In the balance, it was balance matrix, it was a shared authority, but here it is a complete responsibility. And he continued to work full-time on the project and reports into manager of projects, or maybe director of projects, or maybe to some other entity or head of the department of the project, but not to the functional manager. Clear? So this is the difference between these three types of organization. And now let us look at the projectized organization. So projectized organization is just opposite of your functional organization. In functional organization, the entire team was made up of the people who had skills specific to that vertical. But here in the projectized organization, the entire project team will be made up of people with a diversified skills. For example, in a functional organization, when you talk about quality function, quality as a function, you'll have people with all the skills related to the quality. When you move to the balanced organization, balanced matrix structure, so there if we had to use any person from the quality, then we will get approval from the functional manager, and then that person can start working on the project. But here, be it finance, be it admin, be it quality, they all are 100% loyal to this project. They are completely under the under project manager. Okay, so the teams will be formed for the project, and after the project gets over, the teams may get disbanded. We will cover this topic when we do the project HR management in detail. Okay, and the project coordination will be done specific to the project, and project manager will have 100% authority over all the resources. Okay, so a lot of your software development organizations, or your construction, a lot of construction organizations also work in the same structure, projectized organization. Teams will be formed for the project, and everyone will be a part of the project. You'll find people from finance, you'll find people from quality, you'll find people from other functions in areas working in that project. And once the project is over, the team will be disbanded. Okay, and let us look at the characteristics of the projectized organization. So as we talked about it, PM will have the complete or close to complete power on the project team, and has full administrative staff to expedite the project, and project manager and the team will be working for full time, and the entire loyalty will be towards the project manager. Clear? So this is a very important slide, and you must keep all this data in your mind. This must be there on your fingertips actually for the PMP examination. So in a functional organization, the project manager's authority is little to none. In weak matrix, it is limited. In balanced matrix, it is low to moderate. Strong matrix, moderate to high. And in projectized, it is high to almost total. Resources availability, who controls the project budget, project manager's role, project management administrative staff, all these characteristics will vary from one type of organization to another. You must memorize this. You must have this in your mind for the PMP examination. There will be direct questions coming from here. Okay, and definitely they will be there. So pay special attention to that. Read this topic again and again, at least 2-3 times in PMBOK guide. And not only from the exam perspective, when you get back to your respective organization, you need to figure out what type of organization you are working in. And it's very rare to find these days where a project is 100% getting 100% over on time within budget. Very rare to find that, because we work in a very complex environment these days. There are a lot of dependencies, a lot of changes happening, a lot of dynamics which keep changing. Now at least you cannot control all the factors, all the variables, but at least this will give you insight to some of the variables which might have troubled you in past. So go through that, identify in which environment you work in, and then start implementing or taking the appropriate actions in your day-to-day work as well. Clear? And last one from the topic here is a composite organization. So composite organization is not a permanent or a fixed kind of organization structure. It's actually an ad hoc structure. So let's say your company need to set up a new plant. Okay, now when you have to set up a new plant, so the project manager may have to work with all the levels of the organization, from the senior management, middle management, and the operations level as well. So this will require the interaction at all the level, and this will also require the coordination of at all the level. So there can be multiple levels created for the coordination. Okay, and most of the time composite organization is a mix of your weak matrix organization and strong matrix organization. So you will have the coordination at the functional level, and you will have the coordination at the project level as well, and that is why it is called as a composite organization. Clear? Important point to understand or to remember about composite is that this is a temporary structure, okay, created only for specific project or specific objectives. Clear? Okay, and if you have any question, you can type in your question here. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next topic. Okay, I don't see any pointers here, so that's no news is a good news. So I hope it is clear to everyone. So with this, let's move on to the next topic, which is other important organizational influence. So there are few more factors which will have significant influence on your project, and these topics are what you see on the screen, that is organizational process assets and enterprise environmental factor, will play a very, very important and crucial role in your entire planning, the way you manage the entire project. At each phases they will have different role to play. Okay, so these are the factors which are your organizational process assets, which will have the collection of your standards that organization follows, your policies, your procedures, and the knowledge base. So your knowledge base will have your historical information, experience, or the lessons learned or the past project. And then there are some enterprise environmental factor. See, one thing you need to understand, the project that we are working on, the project we are doing is not being done in isolation. The projects do not happen in isolation. There is a whole lot of structure around it. There is an organization in which you're working, and that organization has certain specific traits or certain behavior. It has certain culture. It has certain specific guidelines. It has certain specific standards to follow. Okay, so you must consider all those factors, and that is where your OPA, which is organizational process assets, and EEF, which is enterprise environmental factor, will come and play a major role. I already gave you an example. For example, one organization is known for its aggressive culture. So there you can expect the approval on any mail within 24 hours time. But second organization has a different culture. They don't work as aggressive, you know. Uh, so there, the same approval may take 3 to 4 days time. Now it is going to impact your project in a big way. So it's very important for you to understand the kind of environment you work in, and so that you can come up with a realistic schedule and realistic project plan. Okay. Enterprise environmental factor covers your organizational culture, system, and your political situation in the country. Political situation may have a major impact on your project. Regulations, your government regulations, industry regulations, your economic situation in the of the organization and of the country also. Your competition, what your competition is doing, market conditions, industry standards. These are the factors which can have a significant impact on your project. Let's say you're working on a project, okay, and you're working. This project is to come up with a new product. Let's say a mobile phone. So your company manufactures cell phones, and you are working on a new variant of a phone, and then you get this information that your competitor is going to launch a very advanced version of this phone in next 3 months time. Okay, if you do not launch your product before your competitor does, then you will not be able to grab that kind of market. So you will immediately see the pressure from your senior management to finish it faster. That is your can be your market condition. And then your industry standard, you must follow certain standard like your ISO standard, your SOX compliance. So these are the inputs which may force you, or this may guide you to add some additional work in your project. So these are the factors which you must consider. Let us look at in detail what does this OPA covers. So now an important point is OPAs are specific to the performing organization. Enterprise environmental factor, the same environment can affect multiple organizations, but OPAs are specific to the performing organization. And OPA may include your formal or informal plans. You may have your company may have their own templates to follow. There would be policies, there will be work policies, timing, ethics, personal administration, knowledge and procedure, practices that you follow, and the knowledge base. Knowledge base may come from your lessons learned, your historical information, or the corporate knowledge base. So the corporate knowledge base is your financial database, your issues and defect management database, how the issues are handled, what kind of issues you have handled in past, what were the defects that you had encountered earlier. So you can incorporate that information in your current project. And your process measurement database, so the how the processes perform, or what is the key outcome of the process. So process measurement is if you have to do certain type of work, let's say quality analysis using certain processes, so what will be the benchmark, how these processes have performed in the past. So you can use that as a benchmark, and you can set the criteria for your current project. Okay, your configuration management knowledge. So configuration management is for your version control. So how the versioning of the project documents that you're going to do will be controlled, will be created. So all that information along with your the different piece of information used in the different stages of the project, like in initiating and planning, you will be using the guidelines and criteria for tailoring the organizational process and procedures. You may have certain HR or healthcare related policies which you need to consider during the planning and initiating. You may have some audit improvements target or checklist during the in the planning. You will also have to use these templates extensively. Remember we talked about the templates when we were talking about this PMO project management office or program management office. So the templates created by the PMO in past or maybe for the entire organization will be key input during your initiating and planning. Executing, monitoring and controlling these OPAs or the information coming from OPA may change, and so does for the closing as well. But when we move ahead, when we start looking at the knowledge areas, you will see that OPA and EEF are important part of inputs in each and every planning process. Okay. So now let us look at what is enterprise environmental factor. So enterprise environmental factors are not at all under the control of the project team. These are conditions which will influence your project, okay, or it may constrain your project as well. Your organizational culture, I talked about the culture, your organizational structure and governance, industry standards, HR and personal administrations, market conditions, political climate, existing communication channels within the organization. This will be a very important input here. Commercial database and your PMIS. For example, your existing communication channels and let's say your company, your organization, you are a project manager in an organization where it says that no approval can be given over the email. It has to be in a written or printed format, and that has to be physically signed, then only the approval will be accepted. Now this specific input may impact your overall schedule. So where you can get the approval over email in 5 minutes time, but getting approval on a printout. A physical signature on that may take 2 to 3 days time, a week's time, depending on which part of the world you guys are working from. Okay, so very, very important and useful to understand that enterprise environmental factor, and we will discuss about it as and when they are being used in our detailed processes. So other important aspect is to understand the project management system. So project management system is a aggregation of all these processes, tools, techniques, resources, procedures to manage a project. So this is a sort of repository. This is a system which has a collection of all your tools, templates, every information that you want to. It can be a scheduling software tool. It can also include your scheduling software tool, your configuration management system, your information collection and distribution system. For example, your organization might be using this SharePoint, Microsoft SharePoint. So all the documents will be stored in the SharePoint. Your organization might be using Google Drive. So Google Drive will be an important part of your project management system, where you have all the data, all the reports, all the processes, the documentation will be put in the Google Drive. And some of the project management tool or scheduling software tools could be your MS Project, EPM, or Project and Portfolio Management by HP, or Trello. There are a lot of open source tool available. So you can use any of the tool that you want. PMI has not given any guidelines or instructions on that. But why you need to understand this topic is because for a lot of processes you will see in tools and techniques you're using project management system as an important tool here. So the moment you hear that project management system, you must be able to relate to this slide, that it can be collection of tool which will be used to gather the information or disperse the information or repository of the data. Clear? Okay, and last topic from this section here is measuring project success. So we talked about in the previous module, we talked about the project, program, and portfolios. So the project, program, portfolio, when you understand the larger structure, you will also be able to figure out that which of these constraint has a high priority: scope, time, cost, quality, resource, risk. Okay. For example, you're working on a project which is a compliance project, or to comply with the new regulation of the government. So government said that any company which is involved in manufacturing of electronic component, they must move to the non-lead or lead-free component by end of 2016. Let's say 31st December 2016 is a cutoff date for that. You are the project manager, you started working on the project and you prepared the entire plan meticulously. You have the scope, time, cost, everything planned. So you completed the project is done within the budget, the project is done within the quality parameters, everything is done, but the project got over on 15th of January. Okay, so the project will not be called as a successful project. So you need to understand how you're going to measure the success of the project. And whenever you are referring to it, you must refer to the last baseline, okay, approved by the authorized stakeholders. So baseline is something that we are going to cover in class 2. Class 3, we are going to talk with the class 2 and class 3 will talk about the baselines here. So baseline is just to give you an overview of that. Baseline is an agreed version of the plan. It can be your scope, it can be your schedule, or it can be your cost. Clear? So this is about measuring your project success criteria, and now there are few questions. So I hope this topic, you found this topic interesting, and now there are few questions related to project influence, organization influence process. So let us look at the first question. So you are managing a project where project team member generally report into their respective managers and to you on project manager matters. As a project manager, your authority over the selection of members of the team is low to moderate. So which type of organizational structure does the organization follow? This is a straightforward one, and you should be able to answer that. We have covered this, we saw this in the slide. So please start typing your answers, and while you type in your answers, I'll again utilize few seconds to sip some water. Okay, so the response is a little slower here. Yes, I know you need to read it carefully. I can see the question, sorry, the answers. So let us look at the correct answer. Let us find out the correct answer here. The only word which I'm going to pay attention to is your authority is low to moderate. So low to moderate is a which type of organization structure? It's a balanced matrix organization. Clear? I'm sorry, this arrow is little bit offset, but the correct option is D. Correct answer is D here. And if everyone is clear with this, no questions, let us move on to the next question. In a weak matrix organization, the role of a project manager is that of a weak coordinator and expediter, project manager with considerable authority, support person, or functional manager. So what do you think should be the right answer here? Okay, I got that. Good. I can see that you all are taking notes and probably referring to that also while answering this. So in a weak matrix organization, the role of a project manager is that of a coordinator and expediter. Okay. Project manager, there is no title, there is no clear title as project manager. We saw this in that table. If you remember that table, we saw it there. So you will get questions like this. The last question that we saw, you'll get questions like that also, this also in the PMP examination. Okay, you'll be asked to find what type of organization structure does the organization follow. Clear? Let us look at the third question. So all the followings are advantages of projectized organization structure except, okay, so read the answers and start typing in your options. Oh, this one is quick. I can see a lot of answers here. So let's look at this, all the options here. So first one is loyalty of the project team towards the project. Second, okay, the question is all other following are advantages of a projectized organization structure except. So which one is not an advantage of the projectized organization structure? A, loyalty of the team member, project team member towards the project. Yes, it is an advantage. Team members continue to work together on the project one after another. That we need to see. More effective communication between team members, yes, definitely, that is an advantage. And efficient project organization, this is again a clear-cut advantage. The only odd one out here is option B. As I told you during this projectized structure, that the team will be disbanded after the project is over. Not necessary they will continue to work in the same team or in the same format or same formation for following projects as well. Clear? So I hope this gives you a good insight on what we did. So we quickly covered project life cycle, where we talked about the different type of project phases and the variables that impact the project phases. And we also learned about a very important topic from the examination perspective, that is your organizational influences. And there we talked about your structure, your system and your culture, and most importantly your type of organization. So this is the end of module 2. Thank you.
I hope you have enjoyed listening to this video. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries, and we will reply them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to Edureka channel to learn more. Happy learning!